Good evening, Blackpool. You'll be sick of me. Anyway. Listen guys, this is the third panel talk and it's going to be an absolute cracker as well. I've got three utter legends, and I don't mean just because you're old. To my left I've got Mr. Dan Malone. Now this isn't every game. Dan, you've worked on Cauldron 2, Sacred Armour of Antiriad, and then later on for the Bitmap Brothers you did Speedball 2, Cadaver and the Chaos Engine 1 and 2. At the end there, Mr. Bill Harbison from Ocean Software. Bill has done numerous games, done the artwork for Daley Thompson's Olympic Challenge, Dragon Ninja, which you can see behind me. It's actually Dragon Ninja, there you go. WAC Le Mans, Robocop and Chase HQ. And in 16-bit, I think you did the Batman the movie for Ocean, and Pushover and Jurassic Park. And lastly, but by no means, sorry, you also did the Sega All-Stars Racing, I think, was it, Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll not talk about that. No, just because it's not retro. Now, I did actually, I've put up some game footage. Now, obviously, Mr. Tim Follin, you make the Commodore 64 and other computers sing. We were hoping to play some of your music, but we don't have the technical thing to make it happen. Yeah, Tim's, you've worked on hundreds of games, including Ghouls and Ghosts. I've got to say, the SID music for that game is just phenomenal. I mean, it starts off like the rain, and then it's like how you get that to come in Commodore 64 it's just ridiculous. Renegade, Bubble Bobble, LED, you've worked on the Commodore 64 Spectrum, Atari ST, Commodore Amiga, and the NES. So just to kick things off, guys, can you just tell us all a little bit about yourselves and in a short background? I'll let you go first, Dan. That's all.
Alright, hello everybody. Pilot Software first, and worked on Cauldron, and my first game was the Sacred Armour of Antiriad, which I kind of designed that. And then from there, and we did a game called Super Thief as well, which never got released. And then to Bitmap Brothers, and Bitmap Brothers was all Chaos 2, which is not one of my favourite games. But nowadays I still do graphics, I still do illustration and animation, do a lot of comic work. I live in London and try and keep it all together. How's that sound? That's it for now.
Well, you've said it all already, haven't you? So, yeah, obviously in various other places, but I'm still in the industry working in VR now. So I'm working at XR Games in Leeds on quite a big title, and it's going to be out on Quest 2. So I'm still knocking about, even at my elderly age. What was the question?
I've got sort of got into music, writing music as a sort of hobby. I was still at school, and then got into lucky enough to have a brother that actually could program, get me a job in an actual company. So I've been writing music since then. Well, I didn't. Wrote chip music until sort of the early 90s, and then tried to write real music throughout the sort of 90s, and I think I kind of quit that and got into something completely different in the early 2000s. Just recently, the last 4 or 5 years, I got back into indie games again, so I'm actually developing my own games for the first time, selling them all directly on Steam.
So we're going to hear some more original Tim Follin music then?
Kind of, yeah. As if you're not, I wouldn't say it was music heavy, sort of thing, more sounds.
Fantastic. Just stick with yourself, Tim. What was your earliest memories of video games and computers? Was it at school? Was it the Follin machine?
Yeah, Spectrum probably. First computer. Well, no, it's not sure. The first computer I had was the 8161. Trying to create sound on the ZX81, which you could do if you sort of, I think you have to plug these, the same, you could save the program, couldn't you? So you have to plug into an amplifier, you could kind of get a sound out of it. And then the Spectrum was the kind of doing that. Yeah.
Did you have much exposure like to arcades at all? And,
Yeah, I was, yeah, I mean, I was sort of, arcade scene. But I was quite young when I was kind of, I was doing music when I was 15 or 16 or something. So that's the late 80s. I got a job when I was, 17, basically. That was my first job. 7 to go, I was almost straight into a job. Straight out of What's up? What? Right.
What was the question?
what was your earliest memories of video games and computers? When did you start playing video games?
Probably science class in secondary school.
Science class? You were playing
Yeah,
science class?
Yeah, somebody brought up again, the ZX81 into the science class and was showing us, so that was the first time I saw a computer, and then obviously I had to have it. But then got Spectrum, started doing more graphics on that, and just sort of went from there really. Started doing loading screens and such, and sending them off to different companies.
Yeah, my earliest memory is pop, basically. And my brother writing code on a BBC, because you could type in code and make it a graphic. And I'm like, oh, that was really good. It's really sci-fi. I'm like, it's really interesting. But my love was comics. I was doing comic art continuously. My first job was an advert for a 2000 AD Star Artist. And I was reading 2000 AD at the time. Previously it was Marvel Comics, American Marvel Comics. I grew up on American Marvel Comics. And then 2000 AD came along, which was world class. And I got the job because I did 2000 AD Star Comics. I didn't even know it was computer games, basically. I came down to London, King's Cross, Palace Software. And they said, right, you've got the job. I went, what, you do computer games? So that's how I got to the games industry. That's it. It's accidental.
So were you guys, like, first and foremost, did you start playing games like most of us, and then you started to kind of tinker and think this is actually more fun coding than actually playing games, or how did you start writing stuff rather than just playing them?
I can't code at all. For me, like, a code is like a magician. And I was always kind of blown away by what they could make happen with the hardware. So I can't code. I just do animation, graphics, concepts. And yeah, I mean, you know, looking back on it, it was a really exciting, kind of groundbreaking time. That was brilliant about it. So here we are, like 34 years later. And it's great to see everybody still indoors. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, though, isn't it? I think I wasn't particularly a game player. I was more interested in coding and playing around with sound than I was in playing games. I did play them generally, but as soon as I got to software creations, which is where
What was your first computer then, Tim?
that was XP61. But I was playing games probably sort of 12, 13, that kind of age. But as soon as I got the job, I didn't play many games. I still don't. Even though I'm back into making them, I don't really play them very much. It was kind of
interesting.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, so yeah.
Well, I've been playing games since I got copied ones at school from my computer. So I had been playing.
The Barras Market in Glasgow, perchance?
The what?
The Barras Market in Glasgow?
I didn't get that far. No, it was just again at school. It was a hive for copied games and all sorts of real games. So I'd been playing a lot of games and didn't know what career I wanted to do. So I was hopefully going to go to Glasgow Art College, but decided I would have a go at doing graphics instead and sending them around different companies. So after quite a long time of being rejected, I was finally accepted at Ocean and got a job there. But yeah, it was basically, well, these games are out, so somebody must be doing graphics for them. So I just wrote off, they had the adverts in the magazines and they have the address of the company down at the bottom. So I just sent a load of tapes off to as many of the addresses as I could. And luckily got a reply back. I got a few replies back, but I got a one good reply back. Yeah, that was the one.
Well, this actually leads on to my first question for you, Bill. You've told me before that I believe that Ocean wasn't your first choice regardless employers. Can you tell us a little bit of backstory? Or would you have to kill me afterwards?
I tried a lot of places first. Basically because they were going through the phase of Street Hawk and Knight Rider, and all the games were late and they were terrible. And I just thought, no, I'm not going to send it to them because I'm not going to get anywhere. So after I sent it to all the other companies that I could think of and getting rejected and getting other letters back from places like Elite, etc., I decided, I'll just send it to Ocean and see what happens. And they said, yeah, do you want a job? So, obviously I didn't have any experience or anything. I hadn't even had a paper round at that point. So this was my first job, was just getting out of the little village I was from and moving to Manchester with a suitcase and getting stuck in.
Just going straight from school into a job.
Yeah.
Awesome. Dan, you've already kind of touched on you left Ipswich College, is that correct? And you're obviously looking for a career from comics. You kind of hit a bit of a brick wall and then you later ended up working for Palace Software.
Yeah.
Am I right in thinking, I didn't actually write it, I must take it out, he's quite literally said somebody who can draw graphics or something,
Just what-
fly within.
Yeah, it's what comic artists. It was quite a revolutionary thing. No worries. They wanted a good comic artist because the guy that was the art director, that guy called Steve Brown, very cool guy. He actually gave up to do comics and did his own comic afterwards. But he was like, look, we want to get comic artists in because it's a bit different, and that they should be able to transition across to games, pixels. For me, the first thing was it's so small. You actually like doing like Tau in Anterior is 221 by 21s, or was it 260 by 16s? I can't actually remember. But you know, with brick pixels, 2 by 1. And I'm there, well, this is challenging. I actually preferred working on the Spectrum because it was just normal sized pixels. And you could put together a high resolution compared to the blocky Commodore 64. So that was a real learning curve, yeah. But really, I mean, I ate it. I loved it. It was, for me, I actually learned about colour doing game graphics. I mean, I did colour before, I did a lot of penning and stuff, and did some oil paintings before that at art college. When I was really at Frank Rosetta and all the greats of like, you know, fantasy art, John Buscema, Jack Kirby. So, you know, to go across doing black and white line art, you know, kind of thing. So to go across and actually get the colours, to construct the whole background, make the sprites pop out of the background, you know, like, so everyone can see what's going on. Yeah, it's a real learning. And to this day, I'm thanking because that's my style is pretty much based on one pixel from back then. I did a lot of Dungeons and Dragons before I got into the games industry, so I understood how games kind of worked. But yeah, it was a surprise to be doing games in King's Cross in 1985 in the Scala Cinema, which was great. And yeah, it was a learning curve. Yeah.
So I take it you worked with the wonderful Richard Leinfelder?
Yes.
Yeah, I've spoke to Richard a couple of times. He's a bit of a dude, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a
brilliant.
dude. He's a super cool guy. Yeah, actually, I haven't spoken to him for years, and just recently we've been chatting quite a lot, the last year or so, so that was really cool.
So did you do the graphics for the C64?
Yeah.
Cauldron?
No, that was Steve Brown.
Ah, right. What version did you do then?
I did some abstract conversion. That's what I did. And did a bit of work on Barbarian, abstract conversion work. Did a bit of work on Cauldron 2, just conversion work. But my first big job was second album.
Awesome. Tim, I understand that you never actually did any formal music training. And you left music college after a year. And so you left college after a year and you immediately started working at Insight Studios, working in games including Agent X, Chronos and Bubble Bobble and the Spectrum.
I was probably still at that school when I was doing that, to be honest, because it was around the time that I was in music college, which was
Yeah, that's well college.
right. Okay. So I remember you had to have your bus pass stacked to each term, sort of thing. So I made one term before the tutor would not stack my bus pass anymore because I just wasn't showing up for lectures basically. So I was basically staying home and and going to college in order to go to the pub. That was literally the only reason I went in. Yeah. So yeah, music college didn't last.
Yeah. At what point did you decide after leaving college that you specifically wanted a career in music
I
development?
didn't. I mean, I think the same thing a few times. You know what I mean? Maybe it's kind of you kind of fall into it. I think because you can do something new, experiment with something. That's sort of experiments in the sound. I'm lucky enough to have a brother that was on some program to get me that. Who was already in a job.
I suppose when you think about it, I mean, the early days of computers, I mean, it was like a fad, stupid games. It's never going to catch on.
Yeah,
you told your mum and dad you're going to go and work to write games for a computer, they'd be like, don't be ridiculous.
Oh, yes, absolutely, that was the case.
Yeah.
I think like I had peers when people at my age that didn't get it.
Yeah, but my peers didn't get it. My people that I was at art college with who went on to do design work and whatever, what you do, mess around with computer games. This is like, this is a dead end. I'm like, well, I'm to a job and I'm earning money, so I'm fine. I'm in London. It's cool. It's all right. Definitely, there was a lot of that. This is a job. This is just a little thing. Not like some super turn into what the biggest industry in the world. Gaming.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fair to say that all of the early 8-bit systems that you kind of worked on, again, are limited regards memory, graphics, processors, etc., compared to the 16-bit machines. How did you find the challenge of getting stuff to work in these old systems? And was it difficult because it was limited, or did?
Yeah, it was very much so. I mean, when you realise how much memory you actually had to stack it up, it's about that much on the screen. Like, right, I've got to make all this count. I've got animation to do, I've got baddies to do, I've got backgrounds to do, front end screens. You really worked with that budget. You really chopped it up to little pieces and just squeezed every last pixel out of it. And that was a great discipline for me as an artist today. It's a unique kind of discipline.
I suppose it was quite a good grounding to actually be given a limited systems and think, right, make it work. Whereas now you get a PC, you've got gigs worth of data and processing.
I don't know where to stop with it. When you've got all that kind of memory.
It sounds like the same thing that the limitation is the fuel that keeps you going. Yes. You're trying to fight against limitation. Without limitation.
If you don't have limitation, I'm going to float off into the ether.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, disappear.
But it's true.
Too much.
Yeah, it's true for programmers.
But I'll still like to remember.
Yeah.
I mean, Tim, just very quickly, can I ask you, obviously, you worked in the Spectrum and the Commodore 64, I mean, how challenging was it to get some of the sounds that quite simply should not be coming out of the Commodore 64? How challenging was that, and how did you manage it?
That was the fun, you're trying to sort of create something that you can't technically do, and I think that's the same with graphics, isn't it? Yes, you try to, like you say, cram it, you've got literally 16 by 16 pixels, you're trying to make that look as good as possible. It's also something that was something that no one was doing. There wasn't any kind of precedent for it. So you kind of felt like you were on your own doing that. And that was probably something that spurred to do it.
That's why it's so creative. It was like you're just the first person to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, sorry.
So that was the thing. You just had nothing to base it on.
Yeah.
Apart from, I was always looking at the arcade games. I want to do it like that. I want to do like that. But when you got this much memory in like 4 colours, Commodore 64, and so on and so forth.
I was always impressed. I was impressed with the colour of the spectrum. It was terrible, wasn't it?
It was terrible, which is why they did everything in black and white. So there's no colour in any of these games. Because if you look at something like Chase HQ, like, oh, it's yellow. Which is my main criticism. It's yellow.
Yeah, look, there you go. That's it. That's the C64 version. You've got high-res sprites, which you can port across to the Spectrum. There's a few. The pumpkin is high-res. I say high-res, and it's not really high-res at all. It's compared to like, Commodore 2x4 bricks, 2x1 bricks is high-res. I didn't do that, but Steve Brown did that. pumpkin. I always loved that pumpkin. Look, it's magic.
So, well, you've still not answered your question. So, how did you find the restrictions of like working in the spectrum? Was that a barrier, or was that something that
Not
was
really,
a challenge?
because I did everything in black and white. That was it. So there was no restrictions. I just did the graphics, the animation, and whatever they didn't want to use, they just took out. So I was like, fine. Like Chase HQ, I originally did 6 phases of the cars going into the distance. They only used 4. So, you know, they just cherry picked what they needed. I just did the stuff, and then they would take what they needed and put it in. Because, yeah, the programs knew what they were doing. They knew they had a certain amount of like memory for graphics, so so we didn't go around.
Can I ask you all, how difficult was it transitioning? Because you've all worked in 8-bit machines, and then you obviously transitioned to 16-bit. How did you find that, going from like limited hardware to custom chips, 4 channels of sound and that kind of thing? How did you find that?
Oh yeah, that was great. That was really exciting. 16-bit came along, I was really excited. Wow, bigger palettes, higher resolution, and get closer to the arcade now. I can get closer to that, and really make things smooth and colourful. That was very exciting. I remember that clearly. We did an Amstrad version of Super Thief, which never got released. We initially worked on the Commodore version, and I was doing layered sprites. So I was doing high-res sprites layered, so 3, so I could get a high-res shading look. Then of course, Palace decided to develop the Amstrad version first, because the Amiga was still a bit quiet. Amstrad was a selling machine. I did the whole game. That was my first 16-bit experience. Oh, I love it. I was really excited, because I'm now get closer to real lush graphics now.
That's one of yours, isn't it?
Yeah, that's Kadama, yeah. Actually, it started by another guy, and I came in because the thing was falling apart. I did these displays here with status, and Eric actually lost 2 weeks worth of work. He rang me up at like 1 o'clock in the morning and said, "Dad, I've lost all these graphics." So I had to come back to do them all again. But basically, this is working with somebody else's. Like the guy is another guy. I can't remember the guy that animated it, but that's not my work. The dwarf. It's just a background. And the status server. And there's girls. Yeah, of course.
Somebody brought that game into Ocean. I remember somebody bringing that game into Ocean and saying,
Really?
"Wait till you see the graphics on this, on the ST and the Amiga." And we just like, look at it, we could use that.
That's the Amiga for you. It's a beautiful machine.
It was, well, was it in my case now?
Yeah.
I think technically it was, but the only game, every game we were kind of this much more, so it was kind of, so much to start with.
One again for you, Bill. Going by everything that I've kind of heard and read on the internet, etc., it seems that Ocean was quite a kind of cool place to work. Would you say that was quite a true reflection? Was it work hard, play hard, pool parties, women, drugs?
I can't really comment on that.
Is your missus on
She's not here. Well, we didn't think it was at the time. It wasn't any different than anywhere else. It was just a bit like uni, only there was no teachers. And Gary was in occasionally, so we always knew when Gary wasn't coming in. So, like, right, no work's getting done today. Yeah, pretty much. But I have heard instances of parties in Gary's office, people shotgunning cans of Budweiser and it reaching the ceiling. Somebody, you're supposed to put a knife into the can and get through it.
we wouldn't know.
No. Well, apparently put the knife straight through his hand. had to go to hospital. So it wasn't, I don't think anybody was using anything illegal. As far as I know, it was pretty tame, really. The Summer Creation talked about that. Yeah, they were all in the gear there. not in this
Pass the microphone over.
Me personally. don't know what I was going to say now. Take over my own thing.
Yeah, don't ask me that question, basically. Yeah, we fight pretty hard, actually.
I've mentioned already, I've been lucky to talk to Richard Leinfelder a couple of times. He's a really top
He's a cool.
Yeah, he's got a wicked sense of humour.
He's the first guy I ever met in the games industry.
Yeah.
The first guy that greeted me at the door.
Yeah.
I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
And he actually told me an interesting anecdote about Cauldron. If anybody's played Cauldron on the 8-bits, especially C64, it is the most impossible game ever. It literally is. I'm bad at games, but it's literally, you're dead. And he told me what he actually did was, they recorded the game onto like a specific length of tape, and after the game had finished loading, it would then run for like 10 seconds, and then it would come to the end of the tape, and there was something built into it. If you put it on a C90, and it would keep running, it would automatically make it twice as hard. Clever.
That's
Clever.
yeah.
So,
I don't think you can actually finish. So apparently you can't make a jump. Deep in the castle. High up the castle. Anyway, I might dream that.
so how can he, what, was it quite a cool company to work for? Palace? It was quite a small team, I believe.
Yeah, it was small. They were part of Palace Pictures, so you're right. It was like film events and there was people coming in and out. Like Pat Mills came in once, a guy that started 2000 AD. He came in, we were discussing a project. They were a really exciting, open to any possibility company to work for. Unfortunately, yeah, the transition to 16-bit and Palace Films went bust, and then they pulled Palace software down. It's a real shame because they were a very cool company. Cool company to work for. In Scarlet Cinema, which is a mad place to work. Kingsborough. It's a mental place.
So, Tim, did you have any sort of game musicians who influenced you and perhaps paved your way into the industry? Were you aware of Rob Hubbard and Martin Galway and all these guys, David Whittaker?
It was, well, the name was Rob, when I first started, that was the name, you know, that was great to me. But I mean, yeah, I certainly listened to what people were doing, you know, what the standard was, you know, where the bar was, sort of thing. But, you know, you can't say anything, you can't listen too much, you know, because you can start thinking, you've got to do your own thing, yeah. You just have to kind of take notice of it, you know, because you used to say, take notice of what you were doing, so try and get it.
So all you guys have also produced work for later systems. What would you say was your favourite? Got a week?
Good old Norbert. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, I'm not going to say that. Turn the PA off. I just want it closer.
Yeah. Sorry guys, when we're talking, can you just put up a bit closer so we can hear? You've all produced work on later systems. What would you say was your favourite era? 8-bit, 16-bit, PC? Talk a bit about that.
Yeah, I think 16-bit was my favourite era. When I went to bed, Sony. Sorry, yeah, 16-bit was really cool and my favourite time. I remember clearly going to Sony and working on PlayStation 1 and stuff, and TV, and that was very exciting. Yeah, I mean, I was doing concept work for that 2 games. Unfortunately, Sony were more interested in licenses rather than original products, so that didn't last very long. I left it after 1 month. But that was exciting, PlayStation.
Yeah, I mean, maybe class is 16 bit. I mean, I think probably I'll probably was happy on basically Windows ST. Sorry. Yeah, 8-bit to me was kind of the best era because it was the most to work against and maybe the most challenging sort of thing. I see that advantage of something like that. I think American Red Hot and most of the US was streaming music. So real music. And that was the point where I kind of lost interest in this. I think listening back, I found an old mini disc player which I used to master stuff onto. It was very legit. But you know, listening back to that stuff, I think you can hear sort of enthusiasm for it dying over from about 94 to whenever it was 10 years later.
I think that's the thing. Somebody's turned it up. As a game consumer, when we all heard like Thing or Spring and Monty on their own, we're like, wow. And now you load up the latest game in your Xbox and you don't say, oh, that the music's amazing. No. It's just real music. And it's like whatever. You just kind of take it completely for granted.
That's what the track on it. It's really great. I don't know if you guys work with it, work with orchestras, Richard James, for instance, is always playing out. It's great what they're achieving. It's just, I lost interest at that point. I think I was more motivated by the limitation than I was by the music. So.
And the same question yourself, Bill. What was your favourite era? Would you say?
Well, all of this is fine, but I didn't really start enjoying myself until I got into 3D. So putting pixels down on the screen didn't do it for me. So I wanted to do something a bit more than that. Sorry.
That's fine.
I tell you what, I'm 16-bit Amiga. I just wish we could have carried on, because you could have developed. I mean, still stuff being made now, which is great. I was fighting to go forward, and I don't think Bitmap's a good transition. I mean, they did Z, which was 3D touch sequences anyway, and I loved it like you. I was very exciting, but I would have loved to. If the Amiga could have had bigger Amigas and more memory capacity for graphics, sound, then I would have loved to just carry on doing pictures. It is I like comic art, that's my love, but pixel art is a certain thing. It's a rather relaxing kind of click, and it's not relaxing when you're trying to make a deadline, but at all, but there's a certain view in it.
How aware were you guys regards like magazine reviews? Because obviously this is pre-internet. When a game came out, it was getting reviewed. Were you aware of the reviews? Did you go into W.H. Smith, look around, go, oh dear, and did you take it to heart if the game was panned?
Most of my games did all right review-wise, so I was kind of like, oh, that's a nice review. Oh, 8%, 9%, I'm happy with that. If somebody did criticise it, you're like, well, you try doing it. So there was never really much of a problem with that at all. Just like, getting on with the job here. But getting a good review was always a good feeling, very good feeling.
I don't remember getting like reviews, but at least I think there was a sense of, the fact that anyone was doing this at all. You know what I mean? There was a certain sort of appreciation for that, wasn't it? But certainly. I remember going out buying Crash magazine or whatever it was. Crash and Zap 64, was it? Edge.
Zap 64 was great.
Sorry about this again. But at Ocean, we were hearing rumours that whenever one of our games came out, the magazines would suddenly get a nice big crate of champagne. So you don't really take reviews that seriously when you know stuff like that. And then obviously they've got the power to say, well, you don't give our game a good review, we just won't put any advertising in your magazine for the next, indefinitely. So we didn't have that many bad reviews anyway, but it's a really good reviews. It's like, don't mention that.
I think those operations would have paid for reviews, I don't think. Richard would have
spent it on a year on that.
I mean, we've all seen some utterly shit games that had absolutely stonking graphics, incredible music. I'm looking at you, Shadow of the Beast, on the Amiga. I know you at all when you were asked to produce content for a game which was later panned and sold very little, or did you just look upon it as it's your job? Or did you look at it and think, well, the game might have been shit, but the music was top notch? How did you take that?
Well, I was getting to the stage where I was having a lot to do with the design of the game, conceptualised. So Chaos Engine, we were working on that before it actually got the green light to go ahead with. We were designing characters and talking about the world and talking about how we do it. Later on, as a freelance artist, there is a frustration when you get involved in doing a lot of graphics for a game and you're working all night and you're putting a lot of yourself into it. That, where's the game designer? What's he doing? This is terrible. Very much so. Yeah. I mean, I'd have to go in and say, look, what are you doing? But as a freelancer, you want the work, so just give me the work. So you have to kind of come to that. It's actually about briefing. If you get a good brief and you just do the work, it's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. But if it's a bad brief and you have to do design work to make the work work, and they mess it up, then it's a problem. Big time. Yeah.
I think like my attitude completely changed when I was working with some operations. I really just did the music. I didn't really care that much about what the game was like, and didn't even play most of them, to be honest. Because I was quite sort of detached from the show. But yeah, I mean now I kind of look back, especially because I look back into making indie games now. I look back at my attitude back then, and I think if I had employed someone like me, I would have sacked them straight away. Because they were just doing, I was just doing my own thing, not caring that much. But definitely, I think like now, I just wouldn't bother. I did do quite a lot of games, music games that just. And I kind of fortunately didn't really care that much. I sort of left the industry by the time it came back on the internet, people were reviewing those games, but at the time I didn't really pay attention to it. Got good on that review, so yeah, it was a terrible employee.
I've worked on quite a few stinkers, and you know at the time that they're going to be bad. So you just don't put the effort in. Just make them look, just do enough so that you don't get fired. And then just hand them in. Because nobody's going to say, redo that. So, there's a few, Robocop 3 in the SNES, anybody got that? No? Good. That was like 55 quid when it came out. And we didn't. While we were doing it, we didn't care about what was happening because the movie was late. Programmers were okay, but not really up to the job of like AAA Nintendo game. So it was like, why are we doing this? Just get it out and move on to the next project.
One for you, Tim, is there a specific tune that you've composed which you're most proud of? In-game music for Ghouls and Ghosts, as I've already mentioned, is just mind-blowing. I really wish I could let people hear it today. So what's the piece of music on any platform that you're most proud of? And is there a piece of music or a synth tune that was done by somebody else that you think that was pretty damn good?
I find it really difficult to. It's this concept of being proud of something. I just don't really get it, to be honest. So, do you know what I mean? It's kind of I'm happy with things that I did at the time, but to me, it's kind of once it's done, it's gone. I'm not really that precious about stuff that I did in the past. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what the word is.
Done it, move on.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, there's lots of pieces that I know I enjoyed making at the time, and I would kind of think, I was kind of happy with that at the time. I'm not sure I would listen to it now, you know what I mean? It's a difficult question to answer,
Dan, you obviously went to work with Bitmap Brothers later on. Again, I think it's fair to say that the graphics of all these games were utterly the Sublime, you know, they really were. This was the level before, and then it went up here. What process did you follow when it kind of came to designing graphics? Were you given a background to the game, and was it left to you to kind of come up with specific things to go? What sort of like?
Speedball 2, which was my first game for Bitmap. Speedball 1 had already come out, obviously, and we were playing that at Palace Software, and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. I've got to work with Bitmap brothers. And Palace became a part of the scenes, and the first people I tried to get work from was the Bitmaps. And I was fortunate enough to get straight in there. And they said, right, we're doing Speedball, we're doing a sequel to Speedball. Are you interested? I'm like, hello, I'm so interested. And so I had that to work from. I had Speedball 1 to work from, an idea. But I had a free rein to come up with other ideas, and I didn't have to follow the graphical look that Mark Coleman did, the look of the characters, the armour and that. So I had a little bit of elbow room to be creative. And everything's on paper first, all pencil. So I did loads of stuff on paper that never made it into the game. And then straight into Deep Paint. And the mighty Deep Paint, I love Deep Paint, it's a great piece of software. And yeah, from there, once you're animating, you're leaving the pencil work behind and just going straight into the pixels. And then everything.
Bill, we obviously work in the ocean. Did you ever get to work with the late great Mr. Joffa Smith, who, if anyone doesn't know, was probably one of the best Spectrum programmers that ever lived? I mean, he could do graphics, he could do sound, he could program, he was just phenomenal. Did you ever get to work with him? No. Tim?
Well, he was in Liverpool. he was working in Liverpool, and we were in Manchester, so I think we visited the Liverpool office about once, and we were like, oh, where is he? Is he around? No, he's not in today. So I never actually got to meet him.
Never ever did. When you guys saw a game in the shelves which you had helped design, did you want to say you're great like I did that? Did it make you proud?
We would move them around on the display so that they were at the front. If any of our games came out and there was some other game in front, they would just like move it to the front so that more people would see it.
Was there any piece of work that you guys did and you look back and then go, actually, that was a bit of shit?
I always mark my work out of 10 when I send it. I'll finish it. So if it was below a 7, I generally don't send it. I'll go all night and fix it. I put everything into everything I do. So my family and friends say, you know, stop it, just do enough. But I'm kind of like that. So there's a few things out there that I think are crap. But like earlier, if it's a bad game design and the other side is messed up, I don't like it. It makes me unhappy.
Same one yourself, Tom?
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, it's kind of like I didn't really have a sort of way of, you know, thinking, oh, I'm less into this than something else sort of thing. So, you know, I just kind of did the same process each time, you know, so I look back and say, you know, that's any kind of judgment.
Bill, Robocop 3?
Shut up about it. No, there's a worse one than that. I told you about this on the video. There was a PC game called Flesh Feast. It was a horror game. Because I was just doing like the video sequences between the levels, so I hadn't actually seen the game running until I was asked at the end to do some. Well, we've had the guy here that did Quake, haven't we? So we're doing basically Quake skins for the characters, and then saw the game, and it was awful. I don't even know how it got released, but look on YouTube. It's so bad.
Did you guys go to any of the kind of vintage computer shows back in the day? I know like Ocean used to have big stands and that kind of stuff. Did you ever go along?
Yeah, went to most of the shows and the conferences. If we had a game release, I'd be on the stand talking about the game. And the last big one I went to was in Las Vegas, and I have little memory of it because it was non-stop. But yeah, we were always meeting other peers, other people doing the same thing at the shows, and that was always cool.
I've only been to one in London. I think I got a chance to go to two, but I wasn't able to go to the second one. And then when everybody came back, they were like, Gillian Anderson was there. So, yeah, missed it on that one, I'm afraid, yeah.
No, I haven't got to any. No regrets.
We've touched on obviously video magazines, reviews, etc. Did you guys ever get invited up to like Ludlow, to Zap Towers and these places? Never really go.
What, back in the days?
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew Gary Penn and all the Zap lot, 64 lot. And yeah, we had a couple of sessions together. Yeah, I mean, there were small teams. Palace was a small team. Bitmap Brothers was a small team. So, I mean, I was the only artist on each game. So, you want to meet the artist, and then you go. You're going to meet the other people. You're going to talk to them and try and influence. Nice review, please, kind of thing.
Just one left. Does the fact that there's people here today who want to listen to you guys waxing lyrical and people still want to enjoy your games, does that surprise you at all? That people still want to play games that you made 30 years ago?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. Because you see the PlayStation 5 and the new Unreal Engine, and then bloody hell, games are going next level. And the fact that people still do celebrate the old stuff is lovely, to be honest. Yeah, so it kind of makes it all worthwhile. Because there was a lot of pain involved in making those games.
No, it is just, yeah, it's always been, since I've been, the internet appearing and getting emails about music that I've long since forgotten about. Then it was going, oh right, there is still some affection for that period. I think it's more, a rationalisation of it is that it's an affection for an emerging technology, really. It's kind of something that happened at that point in time. It's never going to happen again. Right? So in that sense, there's a certain, there's something about it that's never, say it's not coming back. So it's an affection for it.
It's a privilege to be part of that.
Yeah.
What's the question? Oh, the people playing the old
The
game.
fact we're still talking about this 40 years on, does that surprise you?
Never thought it would happen. Because once we'd finished doing the game, we were on to the next one. So we didn't have any concept that there was like little kids playing these games at home, because we were already on to the next project and the next one and the next one. The only thing that happened to me was I got a fan letter from somebody. Wrote into Ocean and said that they had bought Chase HQ and they really enjoyed it and like well done to the team. That was it. That was the only experience of, oh yeah, people are actually playing this. And I don't know if they do actually play them now, do they? Really? Yeah. Fair enough. If they do, it's great.
And just before I open the questions up to the audience, I've got one for you, Bill. After working on the Spectrum and Amstrad versions of Chase HQ to critical acclaim, what do you think of the C64 version?
I couldn't say in front of all these nice people.
Go on.
We didn't even know it was being done. We didn't even know who was doing it, because obviously me and John O'Brien did those two versions. We didn't even know there was a Commodore 64 version being done. And it was only a few years ago that I knew about it, and it had been released, and it was awful.
Understatement. Right, listen guys, I'm going to open it up Stick your hand up if you've got, you want to ask a question to any of these gentlemen at all. Thank you, Colin.
Question for Dan. You mentioned you were quite involved in the early days of Chaos Engine. I just wondered the early designs, how it changed to the end product.
Yeah, we were working, Phil Wilcox, I mentioned him, it was his concept, Chaos Engine. And I was working on Speedball 2 still, he was sitting beside me, and he was doing ideas for Chaos Engine. He said, and I was just starting to draw characters. And the thing was very much fluid between us. We were just starting to work on it. And basically I had to really hustle to get Speedball 2 done. I think I was doing the Atari ST ports because we did everything on the Amiga first. Because I didn't want to use the same graphics. I wanted to use the Amiga palette properly for the Amiga version, and then do a separate version for the anterior Atari. And there was a lot of trouble about that because we were going late on development. So yeah, working on Chaos Engine was cool because it was like a new project. And I'd been on Speedball 2 about a year, non-stop. We did a lot of work on that, a lot of stuff that didn't get into the game. And so it was a real pleasure to work on Chaos Engine, and I'd have to say it's come out pretty good. I was quite pleased with the end result.
A question for Bill. Yes. You told me about Chase-HQ on the Spectrum, which you had to do in yellow. How did you feel about doing it in the lovely colours of the Amstrad? And which of the two versions is your favourite?
The Amstrad version probably took a month after we'd done about 5 months of the Spectrum version. It was good having all the colours, I'll say that, but is it as fast as the Spectrum? No. That's finished that one. It was good with all the extra colours and stuff. I didn't like the way everything was like twice as wide, so I couldn't get everything as like defined as I wanted to. But you know, all right.
Very good. You did.
Message for Tim. I just want to say thanks for signing my copy of Solstice the last time you were here.
Oh, right.
But I also just wanted to ask, you're obviously saying that you're doing your own indie games.
Yeah.
Is there any thoughts about bringing your sound vision, I guess, to other indie games?
I've not been asked to do it, to be honest. I mean, someone asked me, now I'm saying that, I think I have been asked to do it. I can't remember what I said. Probably said I was too busy, which I probably was at the time. Yeah, it's just you know, it's a sort of full-time thing what we're doing at the moment, you know, so it's just kind of finding the time, the enthusiasm to do something. I think it's someone else's project, you know, so I'm kind of, you know, you kind of got it now, my perspective now. I think in the day I would have just said, yeah, I'll just do something, you know, because I used to do that, but now I think I'd have to, you know, have more input in making it fit and all the rest of it, and it's more of a commitment than I can sort of do my own input, so potentially, yeah.
Well, for everybody really, are you surprised really that even now, after all these years, there's people like myself and other coders that are still making games for these old systems?
In a way, no. I mean, yeah, it's a surprising thing, isn't it?
But they were all like perfect systems. They all seemed to work, and they had the limitations, and everybody stuck to them. So
that's the fun, isn't it? You know, you've got to have the limitations.
yeah. So no, it's not surprising, but it's good that they still keep it going.
I think it's really interesting, yeah. I think it's a little bit like vinyl, perhaps. You know, this love of a kind of certain thing, and there's a much more efficient way of playing or listening to music, for instance. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's really human. It's a human thing to like celebrate these kind of much loved machines. And and to, you know, current developers making games for those machines, I think it's really cool. Yeah, really cool indeed.
Yeah, it's you know, people still write music for a guitar, don't they? They still pick up guitar music, and that's just, to me, that's an analogy to that. It's kind of a tight limitation, but that's kind of why you do that, you know, because of the limitations. So yeah, that's.
Question for Dan. What was your favourite project that you actually worked on any format, any machine?
I'd have to say Speedball 2, because I had a real free rein on it. I was kind of left alone to just work out ideas for the first month at the Bitmaps. And a lot of stuff got in. It was a pretty rambunctious time in the games industry with the birth of 16-bit or the coming of 16-bit. And if I look back, those two games, Chaos and Speedball 2, they're actually the favourite. I've worked on a lot of games in my life since 16-bit, and those two are my favourites, apart from a few failed personal projects, which never saw the light of day, unfortunately. But yeah, Speedball 2.
Any other questions, guys?
I'll ask a question for Tim. How did you find working with the SID? Programming it, coding it?
Yeah, I mean, that was always, I think I look back on that and think, yeah, let's talk about limitation. It was probably my favourite. Well, that, and I mean, I only did one thing on the project on the Sega Genesis. I think we call it Genesis or something. But I really enjoyed that sort of thing. I'd say I didn't really get much chance to do much on that. So it just had that analog feel, didn't it? You know, so it was kind of, that was, yeah, it felt like you were kind of playing on it rather than programming it, you know, so definitely enjoyed that. Apart from the filter issue that it had, it was different on every machine, you know, so. Yeah, so I remember trying to do a distorted guitar sound, which you could do with the right filters, if they were right in this right point, but every machine was different, so you know, the programmer actually had to use the plus and minus to alter them up and down to get as if anyone would sit there doing that.
Very, very last one for Bill. Commodore 64 or Spectrum?
Spectrum. Every day.
So you were cutting out there, Bill, sorry. Tim?
Spectrum.
In terms of writing music, Spectrum 64, yeah. Yes. But having said that, I enjoyed it, you know, I'm happy doing it without Spectrum.
And when you done Commodore 64 or Spectrum?
The Spectrum really does stick in the memory. I'd like the colours on the Commodore 64, but yeah, it's close. Probably the Spectrum. Probably.
Guys, give it up for Bill, Tim, and thank you very much, lads.